Hello, my loves, and welcome back to this week's episode. I have downloaded again. I done this a few weeks ago, and actually it was one of the most downloaded podcast episodes, which is really funny. I've downloaded a mini coaching video I done on one of my private Facebook groups around the difference between self-love and self-care. And the reason why I've chose to upload this episode is because I actually done live training on it 2 weeks ago in somebody else's group. And so many women were like, oh my God, I've never even thought about that before. So I just felt like it was really, I may have mentioned and spoke about this stuff in other episodes, but I just thought it was really important to get this message across because, it may help you. And yeah, I just thought it was really, really valuable. So I hope you enjoy it, and I shall see you Sunday for the next episode. This week, what I want to talk about in Magic Monday. Magic Monday. I don't know. But this week, what I want to talk about is the fact that self-care is not self-love. And I've just actually done a post on this on my Instagram, and it's something I was really feeling into over the weekend because I had a lot of time over the weekend for self-care. And I don't usually have weekends like that where I just have a lot of self-care time. But it just so happened, and you know what, it was such a nice weekend. I'm feeling so good coming back to myself. Just coming back into things today. But I was getting a massage on on Saturday evening. And one of the things I was pondering on is how we can often get confused and think that self-care is self-love. And I just want to unpack this a little bit more because what's really interesting is, for me personally, those two things are very different. And although self-care is a strand of self-love, it's very different. So that's just what I want to talk about. So if you watch this back on the replay, I just want you to let me know what you think the difference between self-care and self-love is, okay? And do you see self-care as a form of self-love? And if you do, that's fine. There's no right or wrong because, like I've just said, self-care is a form of showing ourselves love, isn't it? But I just want to unpack the difference between the two. So over the weekend, what I realised is self-care for me personally on my journey has always been a way of filling my own cup up and boosting myself. Maybe I need to relax, maybe I need to unwind, maybe I need just some time to switch off and read a book. And often the ways that I show myself self-care is hot bubble bath, going on a walk with a coffee. Maybe it might be hello to whoever is watching, good morning. So that for me is self-care, and I often find I drop into self-care when I need to just come back to myself, when I need a little bit of a pick-me-up, and maybe if I need a little bit of clarity or I'm feeling a little bit disconnected, I will come back to self-care. So, excuse me, bless me. So that is self-care. Self-love for me is the deep-rooted belief that I have and the energy that I tap into every single day. It has allowed me to make the decisions that I have made to get me to this point. It has allowed me to sit with myself in moments of uncomfortability. It has allowed me to set boundaries, to forgive, basically to just grow in a multitude of ways. And self-love is an energy that I embody every single day, which then has a knock-on effect and determines what actions I take. It determines how I think, how I'm showing up in the day. And self-love has been very important for me in the moments when things are going to shit. And that is the big difference between self-care and self-love, because I know when I've been in moments like with the infection the past few months, a bubble bath would not have helped me through that. and going to get a nice coffee would not have helped me through that. So self-care is kind of like our surface level stuff that brings us back up, that fills our cup up, and that can actually just replenish us in the moment. And like I said on Instagram this morning, self-care is usually the way that we feel after we give ourselves self-care is quite short-lived. So let's say we're stressed and we have a bubble bath with a nice glass of wine to relax after a long week in work. That's not going to be a long-term solution, is it? Because when you go back into work or in the few days after you've done that, you will, if you don't address what it is that's the problem, you will begin to feel that again. So that's just what I felt really called to share. And the reason why I feel called to share that is because often women will say to me, I don't really understand what self-love is. And if you watch this back on the replay, if this is resonating for you, then please just let me know how it's resonating. But they will say to me, like, I don't really understand what self-love is. You know, how do you get that deep sense of self-love? And often people who were saying that, often there's a confusion because we're doing all of the things that we're being told to do on social media. Like if you think about how self-love is branded, often it is given across as you do the bubble baths and you do the nice walks and you go for the massage. But when you have self-love, self-care is like that little sprinkle on top of what you're doing every single day. And you no longer have to, hello to whoever's watching, please comment and let me know who's watching. You don't have to justify your actions of self-care because you already have the base level of self-love. So you know that you're deserving of these things. So just for a moment, even if you're watching now or you're catching this on the replay, just think, do you ever have to justify or feel like you have to justify acts of self-care? Like if you're a mum, do you have to justify coming away from the kids and having a bubble bath? If you go for a massage, do you ever actually even do that? Or do you feel like that's too much in the form of self-care? Do you have to really justify that if you do want to go for a massage or if you do want to do something really nice for yourself? I done the Worthy of Wealth. I done the Worthy of Wealth training, not last weekend, but the weekend before. And one of the things that came up was that, hi, darling. One of the things that came up, it'd be interesting to know how this changed for you doing the divine, actually, the difference between self-care and self-love. But one of the things that came up is this notion of seeing a treat as a nice cup of coffee. So one of the women on the Worthy of Wealth said that for her, showing herself self-love was getting a nice cup of coffee. But then that would lead into sometimes a questioning of, do I really want this cup of coffee? Do I really need to spend the money on this cup of coffee? If she didn't feel like she fully enjoyed it, she said then there would be a little bit of guilt around that in terms of like, I shouldn't have spent that money. And this all ties into the money beliefs that come up, especially when it's around our sense of self-worth. So one of the things that I was saying in that coaching is, when we see small acts like buying a cup of coffee as a treat, as having an hour on our own as a treat, as being able to sit down, and I get this will be different for women with kids, but when we see that and we amplify that as, oh, this is this big treat, this is me showing myself self-love, what we're doing is like the undercurrent to that of our saying, I'm not actually worthy enough, so this for me is a treat. Like this for me is showing myself that I'm worthy. But if you look at how small that is, like a cup of coffee, that's so small. Sitting down and being able to read a book is such a small action. So actually, is that you tapping into that sense of worthiness? Or actually are you tapping into the unworthiness of like, you feel like you're so unworthy when you show yourself the smallest thing, it then feels like it's self-love. Is this making sense what I'm saying? I hope it is. Let me know if it's resonating. Divine absolutely helped the understanding of the self-love and the differences. I wake up in the morning and ask myself, how do I want to show up for myself today? That's just the beginning. Yeah. amazing. And I think that's where often we can get that notion of self-worth and self-care mixed up, because the self-love is what comes into play every single day, and self-worth is obviously a strand off that. So you self-care, so you will show yourself self-care because you cared about yourself, but you're no longer coming at it with the intention and the energy of, this is me showing myself self-love, this is me showing myself that I am worthy, and all you're doing is getting a fucking bubble bath. Like, see the contrast. And like, for me, when I say that out loud and I think about that, it feels like such a contradiction, and I don't know how that's coming up for other people, but it feels like such a contradiction. And it feels like actually I'm minimizing my needs. Like, I'm minimizing self-love, I'm minimizing how I can show myself that every single day, and I'm minimizing the importance of actually giving myself that every single day. So let me know if you're watching, if that is resonating for you. And I just think it's really interesting as well, because a lot of women will say, I can do self-love alone, so I don't understand why I'd invest. And I know a lot of women who come into my programs and come into like the divine, they come in with this conception of what self-love is, and actually it's just blowing out the water, because they realize, wow, this is what self-love can be, this is what self-love is, and this is the power that it can bring into my life. Whereas if you look on social media how self-love is branded, and I've touched on this before, it's often doing the small things like the bubble baths, all of these things like the face masks, going to get your nails done, going to get your hair done. And the other element of that as well for me is, why is self-care always seen as pampering? Like, why for women, and this is when I put my little feminist hat on, but why is it always seen as making ourselves look better or feel better, or having a bath, or going to get a facial, or getting our hair done, or our nails done? Like, what is that bullshit, please? And why is it always based around how we look? It's like, oh yeah, that's showing myself self-love, and I'm going to make myself look better, which will make me feel better, which is then just feeding these beliefs around the way that we look is the most important thing. And as women, when we're doing self-care, it's all around how we look. No, self-love and self-care can also be deep inward stuff. It can also be stuff that we just love. It could be going to the gym, it could be anything. But isn't it really interesting when you think about self-care and how it's branded? It's often branded with the face masks and, you know, to all of those things. That's just something I notice, and I'm like, that's very interesting. It's completely different doing it yourself and doing the divine. The tools are with me now forever. No self-development books can teach me what you did. Ah, that's so nice. Thank you. And that's really true though. Like, the things that come out in self-development books, they are, again, quite surface level stuff. And all those self-development books help massively. You know, I've read a few self-development books in my time. It's actually the embodiment of the self-love work that makes a massive, massive difference. And I just feel like when we do the self-care stuff, like I've said, it's surface level stuff. And I think that's why women get a little bit confused and think, why would I invest in self-love? Or what even is self-love? Because I can just do it on my own. Like, why do I need a coach to help me with self-love? So another thing that I hear often is, I've tried to love myself and go for like nice coffees, give myself a pamper, but it doesn't work. And if you're watching this, please let me know what's resonating in terms of the self-love versus self-care, because I'd love to know what you guys think. This that I hear links back to what I was saying before, when women will say, I try to do all of the things, Lydia, but nothing's changing. And I say, okay, so what are you doing? Like talk me through what your self-love routine is. Talk me through how you are embodying self-love every day. Well, I wake up in the morning and I will journal what I'm grateful for, and then I'll make myself a nice cup of coffee, and then I go about my day, and then I don't know, I'll go to the gym. Okay, so again, let me know. Where are you embodying self-love in that? Well, I don't know, because I don't know. I'm not really sure what it is, and I feel like I'm trying it, but nothing's working. this again is the key between self-care and self-love, and why you may feel like you're not getting to where you want to be on your self-love journey, or you feel like you're not understanding your behavior, you're not getting a hold of your triggers, you're not being able to break that cycle that keeps playing out. You can't find a relationship that you just feel 100% trustworthy in. You just never feel worthy. When you think about it for a minute, do you think journaling on gratitudes and making yourself a nice cup of coffee and a bubble bath is going to help unravel all of the inward stuff? No. The surface level stuff. It's surface level stuff. And that's often why women feel like they're trying all of the things, but nothing is working. And that is what disheartens women on their self-love journey. One, it's because they don't understand what it is for them. You know, often a lot of women that I work with, and that's why the first module in the Divine is, what is self-love for you? Because often they will get an insight of what self-love is based on how I teach it or how you see it in my life, or they will follow other people on social media who promote self-love without ever really asking themselves, what actually is self-love to me and how would it show up for me in my life? So that's something I would suggest that you can go away and journal on. Get really, really clear on what self-love is for you. And then when you get really clear on that, then you can begin to see what behaviours feel like self-care and what behaviours you want to do every single day to help you get to where you want to get to, okay? Also, the other thing with that is, all of the self-care stuff is lovely, but that is not going to help unravel all of the shit that we've just spoke about. So therefore, what is going to help you do that? And it's about going deep, isn't it? It's about going deep, and it's about getting uncomfortable, and it's about unraveling the stuff that lies in here. You know, the forgiveness, the relationship with the body, the trust, the confidence, the self-worth. And actually that's massive. But I feel like for me, the way that self-love is promoted as like pink and fluffy and beautiful, and people will talk about self-love, but will they actually show the journey of self-love? Will they actually show the roller coaster that self-love brings? I don't really know many other people on social media who are willing to do that, who are willing to be vulnerable and show how difficult the journey of self-love is. And when I say difficult, like beautifully difficult, you know, because you learn to enjoy the journey and you understand that it's all part of the journey and our soul is on a path. So I always look at it that way, like, my soul is here for an experience, and whatever it experiences is part of my soul's journey. I have to have the ups and I have to have the downs, ebb and flow, light and dark. You will always hear me talk about this if you listen to my content. But it's really important to start thinking about it in that way. When you're giving yourself self-care, you fucking deserve it. Like, yeah. You're not giving yourself the world because you're giving yourself some self-care. And when you think that, you're actually doing a massive disservice. Because it should be about broadening your scope of what you're worthy of. Like, what, excuse me, when you're doing your vision board, when you're setting your dreams, when you're manifesting, what is it that you want to believe you are capable of achieving? Where is it that you want to go? What love do you want in your life? How do you want to feel in your body? All of these things are the things that actually you're worthy of. And if you just limit yourself to being like, I'm worthy of getting a blow dry once a week, I'm worthy of a bubble bath once a week, it just feels a little bit sticky for me, and it actually feels like it's just limiting your potential and your self-love. And it's like, why can't we have these things? And then this is where the worthy wealth work comes in. So if you're watching this and this is resonating, I actually have 2 things I could offer that would help you with this. I have the worthy wealth module that will look into how your self-worth is showing up in relation to your abundance, in relation to your money. And it is massive. It is huge when it comes to you realizing what stories are playing out and what beliefs are playing out in relation to your worthiness and in relation to you showing up for yourself. So that the realizations from that program were insane. So it's there, Worthy of Wealth, which is the self-study 3-module program. So I hope today is giving you food for thought. And I think that was just my intention showing up today, is just to unpack the self-care versus the self-love, because I know that it's holding some of you back, and I know that it's causing confusion in a lot of women's self-love journeys, and I know that it's actually massively limiting your potential and limiting how the magic that can show up in your life through self-love. So yeah, my suggestion from today would be go away and journal on the difference between self-care and self-love. That's going to be very important. Get really, really clear on what those 2 things mean for you, because I've just shared my insight today of what those 2 things mean for me. And I understand how each of those things will play out in my life for me to show myself the love that I deserve and for me to meet my own needs. So you need to understand how you're meeting your own needs with your self-care and your self-love practices. Getting really, really clear. So my loves, I hope you've enjoyed that live. Like I said, I will be back on Thursday at 6 p.m. Apologies for not attending on Thursday. I was at the wedding. And if you do watch this on the replay, please let me know what resonated and what your biggest takeaway was from it. So I am sending you all love. I hope you all have a gorgeous, gorgeous Monday and a lovely week, and I shall see you soon.